What if I told you that in a single day, over 230,000 people died, and almost no one outside of China even knows it happened? Or that a volcanic explosion once wiped out 70,000 people in hours and may have inspired the story of Atlantis? These aren't events from a movie. They're real, they happened, and yet most of us were never taught about them. This is the story of history's deadliest days, the ones they left out of your textbooks. Let's start with what might be the deadliest single-day disaster in modern history, the Bankao Dam Failure in Henan Province, China, August 1975, after years of political interference during Mao Zedong's rule, where engineering concerns were dismissed in favor of speed and ideology. Several dams were built too quickly, including Bankao. That summer, Typhoon Nina hit, bringing a year's worth of rain in just 24 hours. The dam, designed to withstand 10 inches of rain per day, faced 40 inches in one day. It collapsed. When Bankao broke, over 700 million cubic meters of water burst through, the equivalent of 280,000 Olympic swimming pools. Walls of water as high as 10 meters, 33 feet, smashed through dozens of towns, sweeping away homes, people, and entire villages in minutes. It triggered a domino effect. 61 other dams failed. Death toll estimates vary, but some place it at 230,000 people, not just from the flood, but from famine, disease, and exposure afterward. Why haven't you heard of it? Because the Chinese government kept it a state secret for decades. Only in the 1990s did researchers begin to piece together what actually happened. Next, All Saints' Day, 1755. The devout city of Lisbon, Portugal, was packed with churchgoers. Then, without warning, the earth shook. A massive earthquake, estimated between 8.5 and 9.0 in magnitude, struck offshore. The ground tore open, buildings collapsed, fires broke out everywhere. But the horror wasn't over. Roughly 40 minutes later, a tsunami crashed into the city. Many who had fled to the harbor were washed away. In total, an estimated 60,000 to 100,000 people died. One of the deadliest quakes in European history. This wasn't just a natural disaster. It shattered Enlightenment-era Europe. Philosophers like Voltaire and Kant were stunned that such devastation could strike a religious capital on a holy day. It also gave birth to the modern field of seismology, as people began seriously studying earthquakes and urban planning. Most people have heard of Mount Vesuvius, but far more powerful and more deadly was Mount Tambbora, a volcano on Sumbawa Island, Indonesia. In April 1815, it erupted in one of the most violent explosions in recorded history. The sound was heard over 1,600 miles away, as far as Western Australia. Ash darkened skies for weeks. The immediate death toll, around 70,000 people, most from pyroclastic flows and ashfall. But the indirect effects were far worse. Tambbora pumped millions of tons of sulfur into the atmosphere, disrupting global climate. The next year, 1816, became known as the year without a summer. Crops failed across Europe and North America. Famines struck. Snow fell in June in parts of the northeastern US. The eruption reshaped weather, inspired dark art and literature. Some say Mary Shelley's Frankenstein was conceived during this bleak summer. and affected geopolitics. Yet, outside volcanology circles, few people even know Tambbora's name. When India gained independence from Britain in 1947, it was hailed as a victory of peace and democracy. But beneath the celebrations was a tragedy of staggering proportions: the Partition. British authorities, seeking a swift exit, drew a rushed border, dividing India and Pakistan along religious lines. What followed was one of the largest human migrations in history. Over 15 million people moved across newly drawn borders. Violence erupted between Hindus, Muslims, and Sikhs. Entire trains full of refugees arrived at stations filled with corpses. Exact numbers vary, but in just a few weeks, between 500,000 to 2 million people were killed in massacres, riots, and revenge killings. Despite its scale, Partition is rarely covered in depth in Western history classes. For South Asians, its scars still linger. Now imagine this: a disaster so large it affected over 50 million people. More than the entire population of France at the time. That's what happened during the 1931 China floods, possibly the deadliest natural disaster in human history. Triggered by a combination of snowmelt, heavy spring rains and cyclones, the Yangtze, Yellow and Huai rivers overflowed. Dikes broke, cities were submerged. In some places, people lived on rooftops or floated on debris for weeks. Between 2 to 4 million people died, not just from drowning, but from starvation, disease, and even mass cannibalism in the worst-hit areas. So why don't we talk about it? The floods happened at a time when China was politically fragmented, with limited media. Western attention was focused elsewhere, on the Great Depression, Hitler's rise, and other looming crises. So why were you never taught about these days? Part of it is geography. Part of it is politics. But mostly, it's the nature of history education. It's shaped by narratives, not numbers. Yet these days, these forgotten catastrophes shaped lives, borders, and even the climate. They deserve to be remembered. So the next time someone says, history is boring, tell them about the dam that drowned 250,000 people, or the volcano that made it snow in summer, or the border drawn in a room that killed 2 million. Because history isn't just what we remember, it's what we choose not to forget. If you found this eye-opening, hit like and subscribe, and let me know in the comments what other forgotten moments in history do you think deserve the spotlight.